Well, here we are again. Our rod race continues. We're trying to catch big fish, of course, and you join us now at a fabulous lake in Shropshire. It's a real syndicate water, some very, very big carp in this lake, and I'm hoping, Mick, that maybe we can just nail one or two of them. We've got pretty good weather, warm, settled, not too warm though, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, let's hope we get a big name.
There's some stuff involved in carp fishing, isn't
Well, there is, but the trouble is you need it all, don't you?
Yeah.
Should we get the first load down to the swim?
Yeah, they're pretty close together. It's a really good area of the lake, this.
OK.
I've looked after you, my boy.
Certainly have, mate. This is one you're going to fish from.
Well, I'd like to, but I mean, they're both good spots.
Yeah.
It's a good area, this. It's one of the widest parts of the lake. So, carp. Well, the record currently stands at just over 61 pounds, caught by my old mate Lee Jackson from Collinbrook. Definitely a British fish, and this is where the controversy comes in. Now, I'm here at the Natural History Museum in London. I've got with me Nigel Hewlett, and Nigel works for both the Environment Agency and the British Record Fish Committee. So here's the controversy, Nigel. We know that carp are being imported into this country. On the British Record Fish Committee, what are you going to do if one of these big fish gets caught, it breaks the record, and it definitely has a whiff of garlic about it?
From both the Environment Agency point of view and the Rod Court Fish Committee point of view, we're very concerned about the potential damage imported fish could do to British carp fishing. They have the potential to bring diseases in that could devastate our own carp fishing. From the Record Fish Committee point of view, if we turned up a fish that was potentially foreign, we're very concerned about the legitimacy of the record, so we would have to look at it very carefully.
Now, you had this situation with the Wells catfish and you suspended that record. Could you envisage the same thing happening with carp?
Unfortunately, very much so.
Now, there was never any realistic chance that Mick and I could have a serious tilt at Lee Jackson's British carp record, but, you know, we have picked a place with big fish. Conditions are less than perfect, but, you know, with carp fishing, well, sometimes it's in the lap of the gods.
Are they often in this area at this time of day, mate?
They are. They gradually drift down this way, actually.
I think a lot of people who don't carp fish don't realise that carp are a fish that move around quite a bit, and they tend to have sort of a routine, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, you've fished this lake a few times. Have you worked out the pattern here yet?
Yeah, there is a pattern, and that is that we've got the shallow end of the lake up here, and then on this side you've got the dam, so the lake gets progressively deeper as you go up that way. And what tends to happen, I find, is that during the night the fish are often drifting back into the deeper water at that end of the lake, and then in the morning they gradually work their way down the centre until in the afternoon they end up out in front of us here, and some of them actually go right into the shallows. Yeah. And then when it gets dark they just edge back up again. Yeah,
so knowing that you get this sort of movement of the carp, you're obviously going to get long periods of inactivity and then a burst of action as they pass through. And of course the way you bait, depends on how long you can keep them there.
Yeah, but you've got to remember as well here, I think we've got to be a bit cautious. And remember that the stakes are really high.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fish in this lake, over 30 pounds,
yeah.
and there's a good number over 40 pounds. I mean, carp in this country don't get much bigger than that, you know, so...
Well, we're here for a little while, so, you know, we start off cautiously and just see how it happens.
Yeah, yeah.
See how things pan out.
OK, mate, I'll give you a hand with your stuff. All right, then.
Well, I've picked a really, really nice swim here. I'm commanding a lot of water. There are some really, really big carp in this lake, and I'm so excited about catching one. But we've got to start to get serious now, and we've got to start thinking about rigs and methods. And the way we bait the swim as well, these are very, very important things to consider when you're after big carp. These fish won't be a pushover. They've been fished for a little bit. So we've had to think about it, and I'm certainly hedging my bets a little bit. I've got 3 rods out, and I'm going to have a different rig on each one. I'm just going to fish quietly for a couple of hours without putting too much bait in, and just see how things start to happen.
Well, I'm just puzzling about how to approach this. I really don't think we need to put much bait in here. Initially, I'm going to put 3 rods out just to try and pick up on what the fish are doing. I'm going to be looking for fish, looking to see where they're moving, whether they're moving down the lake, whether they're shown in front of me. So I don't want to overcommit myself here. As far as the rigs are concerned, I think they need to be fairly critical. I'm going to put this one out on what we call a snowman, which is effectively a sinking hook bait and a buoyant hook bait. And the idea is that the sinking hook bait counteracts the buoyancy of the pop-up hook bait on the top, and the whole thing goes down really slowly. You can see why it's called a snowman. I'm just going to test it in the margins of the lake.
Hazy will probably tell you that while I'm sitting here, I'm sleeping, but I'm not all the time, believe me. I'm actually scanning the water looking for signs of carp. You see, carp, when they are active, you're going to start seeing swirls and big splashes. The thing is, when they're doing it over your swim, over your baits, if you're not catching them, then obviously something is possibly wrong with your rigs. At this stage in the game, nothing has happened of any note in the swim, so it may be just a case of waiting for the fish to come through this area. We'll wait and see.
Well, I've been here for about an hour, and I know it's not a very long time, especially in carp fishing, but already I've got doubts starting to crowd in that I've done the right thing in fishing this swim. I call it the carp gremlins. And if I was seeing fish, I'd be happy, but it doesn't feel right somehow. I think what I'll do is give it another hour here. If I see some signs, then maybe I'll stick around, but if not, I think I'm going to move up to mix left. I don't sound very certain because I'm not.
Excuse me, can you get out of the swim, please?
I don't think this is going to be easy, actually. I think if me and Mick get 1 or 2 fish in the 48 hours we've got here, I think we'll have done okay.
Well, the first little bit of action after 8 hours, I had the first bleep on the alarm. After about 4 hours, nothing had happened on the stringer rig, so I thought I'll add a PVA bag to the rig with some pellets, and another 4 hours has gone by, and all of a sudden I've had quite a dramatic drop back, and that probably tells you that something's either run into the line, but more likely a carp has picked up the rig, dislodged the lead, and the line has just dropped back a little bit. But the fish hasn't hooked itself, so it's back to waiting, I suppose. It's going to be dark in about an hour and a half, so just hope we get some action before the light goes.
What I'm working on at the moment is critically balancing these baits so that they sink really, really slowly, pretty much under the weight of the hook. It feeds by sucking a carp. It actually creates a vacuum in its mouth. And it can disturb a lot of water. It can actually swirl all sorts of things into suspension, like sticks and stones. And of course, if your bait's responsive and it too swings around, it'll find its way easily into that vacuum. You know, it may make the difference between catching a fish which is kind of half interested and one which is fully on the feed. I'm going to test this in the margin now. Now, the problem I've got now is the pop-up bait is very buoyant. It's floating at the moment. So the way to get around that is to squeeze the pop-up bait underwater, try and squeeze some of the air out of it. And you can see, look, it's gone now to neutral buoyancy. It's literally hovering mid-water and it's going down really slowly. Now that is a very responsive bait. That's pretty sexy as far as carp baits go. Well, it's been a pretty miserable time so far, really. Went in next to Mick to mix left and fished there all last night and caught nothing. So that's really good. And I've come back to the same swim that I started on. Not seen much. Whole lake's just dead, really. I'll give it today. It's gone really grey, started to rain a bit. Feeling pretty sorry for myself this morning, really. Come on, Brownie, you lazy Herbert.
Oh, good man.
It's absolutely pouring out here.
Oh, it's horrible, isn't it?
Oh, it's vile, still.
Yeah, there's much happening up there.
Yeah.
There's fish in front of me, you know, but they won't take the bait, though.
I don't know what's going on. I've seen very little in front of me now.
Yeah, well, I've just nodded off, I've got to be honest, but there's been a few fish out there.
All I've seen is the rain hitting the water, mate.
Oh, it's horrible, isn't it?
I just don't think that for whatever reason that the fish are feeding. See, the stakes are so high here. We're after a big fish. There's a lot of fish over 30 pounds. There's quite a number of carp over 40 pounds in this lake. We only need one run.
Yeah.
But the question is, how are we going to get it? I'm
Yeah.
going to try to get what I'd call a curiosity take. I'm going to put a single hook bait on one rod, a really bright pop-up,
Yeah.
and I'm just going to blast it as far across as I can get it.
Yeah. I'm going to leave mine where they are for a bit, because I always think when there's fish in the swim, I don't want to pull the rigs out and spook them, and you know, by recasting. But I think a result from this water, this session, is going to be
One fish
quite an
would
achievement,
be
really.
a good result, I'll tell you now.
The viewers think we're always going to do it. But, you know, sometimes, one of these times, we're not going to do it.
This could be it.
Yeah, it could be.
Well, here it is. This is the little pop-up rig that I was talking about. The bait is a fluorescent pop-up. You can get these in different sizes and colours. This is pink squid, and boy does it hum. Very difficult for the fish to miss it, and that's the idea really. You can buy these pop-ups in various colours and smells, but the most important thing is to present them properly. Now, I've got quite a small hook on here. The bait's tied on using dental floss to a small loop on the hook, and this little shot here pulls the bait down very slowly, and it just sits there just off bottom like that. If a carp comes in, sucks anywhere near that bait, it's going to fly into its mouth. Now, to stop the bait getting pulled into the bottom too quickly, I want it to sink nice and slowly under the weight of that shot. I'm going to use some of this dissolving foam. You just put a little piece of it on your hook like that, double it over, put it on the hook, and what that does is it holds the bait up after the lead's touched down. The foam dissolves and the bait sinks slowly under its own weight and settles on top of the silt. It's a really nice little rig. That's the last thing I need. It's pouring me rain, and the indicator's just been blipping up and down. I've just recast this rod, spent ages working with a towel, keep everything dry, chuck the PVA bag out there, and within 5 minutes I've got a little rud or something taking the bait. Misery. There you go. There's the culprit. Beautiful looking fish, and if I'd caught it on light tackle with a couple of maggots, I'd be absolutely delighted with that. But as it is, with the rain pouring down and the prospect of having to make up a new rig, I'm not best pleased. Well, the carp record currently is over 60 pounds. Not only have we got nowhere near that, but we can't even get the right species. Wet, miserable, thoroughly depressed. I think I'm going to get Brownie to pelt me with air-dried boilies.
What a dramatic change in the weather. We've actually got some sunshine after the most horrendous night. Yesterday, I noticed the fish were probably 20 yards beyond the range I'm casting. So I'm going to do something about that this morning. I've taken off the bags and the stringers, which are inhibiting the cast quite a bit. And I've recast the baits, and I've got those extra 20 yards. And I know now that my hook baits are out there in amongst the fish, which are from time to time still rolling. So I'm quietly optimistic, as I always say, that we're in with a much better chance now. It just really starts to feel good now. Certainly feels good to have a bit of sun on us for a change. I think we're going to have to move, Matt. Yeah, look. See that one?
Yeah.
They're in front of those bay platforms, aren't they?
Yeah. The fish are out beyond our range. They're not in front of us. The fish are not active, they're not feeding, there's no two ways about that. But if we've got a lot of fish in front of us, there's always a chance of a pickup.
Yeah.
And I've been watching them fish now, and I know you have. They're across there, right on the far side in those bays.
Well, time's running out, Matt.
Well, we've only got a few hours left. I think we've got to bite the bullet, pack the gear, take minimum stuff round, like just take our rods, a few PVA bags, put 3 bags out each, just sit back and hope.
Yeah.
It's the only way we're going to catch anything, I'm sure of it.
Well, let's break camp and do it.
Yeah, OK.
We always seem to be running out of time, don't we? It's like being back in the rod race again.
I think we're up against it this time, though, to be honest.
I know.
No sign of them now. I'm sure this is the right place. Well, we've already discussed tactics. We're going to fish what we call PVA bags. Now, basically, PVA is a dissolving form of string, so it dissolves in water. So you fill the bag with lots of goodies. You throw it out there attached to your hook, and basically it dissolves, leaving your hook sitting in a nice pile of bait. So there's one nice convenient meal for fish to home in on and just gobble the lot up. So there are various ways of attaching PVA bags. I've got one here that's made up, and I've got a rig here ready to go, and I'll show you the simplest way of doing it. This is a mesh style bag, so it dissolves quite quickly. Here's the hook. I just literally take it through the bag and then twist it round and through again. So it hangs on the bend like that. And that's the simplest way to attach a PVA bag. Behind and... I think that's good. Reveal yourselves to me. I don't know what's going on there, whether that might be a take or... It is a take, but I don't know whether it's a carp or not. Let's find out. Not sure there. There's some weight there, but it doesn't feel particularly heavy. Something there anyway. I mean, that was pretty quick. That was a real fast response. That was the first bag that I put out. Do you know, I think it might be a pike. It is a pike. That's ridiculous. Well, I think it's a bit of an injustice, that. It's a pike, and it's taken 2 boilies, fair and square. That's amazing. Little jack pike. It must be a hungry one. Well, it's a fish, and these are Mick's favourite fish, but it's not exactly what we'd got in mind, that. Look at that, he's taken the 2 boilies, fair and square in his mouth. Cheeky little devil. Now, I've got to unhook this pike without forceps here, because I've left him up in my bag, so I'm taking a bit of a chance, but I'm holding his mouth open. There you go. Little jacker. Let's take the weed out for him. It's amazing teeth. Oh well, let's put him back. Go on, you cheeky little devil. Go and terrorise the rudd or something. Got a right old sulk on now, look. I don't believe this. Mick, how long have we got to go before we have to pack in?
Oh, Matt.
Honestly.
An hour? Good lad. I thought we weren't going to do it. Big fish, is it?
It feels all right. It was that right-hand rod I just recast.
That's where we'd seen him rolling, wasn't it?
This one came at range on the right-hand rod, and after over 48 hours without a bite, this is amazing, actually. We came round here to this other side of the lake, and I knew it felt right. I could see the fish here, but it almost seemed to be too good to be true, with just a a handful of hours left and we've had a run. Now I've got to get the fish in. Of course, when you're fishing a place like this, we just don't know how big this fish is. It could be 18 pounds, something like that, or it could be 40. You just don't know until you see it. My heart is in my mouth at the moment.
It's a common.
Yeah, it's not a big one, I don't think, but it's a fish.
I'm going for it, Matt. Keep coming. Keep coming. Keep coming. Yes!
Yes!
I've got it. Yes.
Honour satisfied.
Hey!
Well, Mick, it's a really chunky fish.
Yeah.
Probably going to grow up to be a real big one, this one. Now, bear in mind that the British carp record is now over 60 pounds. This one's got a lot of growing to do. It's a lovely fish. It's probably in the upper teens, I would think. It's quite heavy, actually. It might even just make 20 pounds, Mick, actually.
It's heading that way,
heavy.
yeah. It's very, obviously it's very bulky. And when you think a fish like this could live 40, 50 years or even more.
Yeah.
So it's got plenty of time to grow into a record fish.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mick, it's not one of the biggest fish in the lake, but I think in the circumstances,
Yep.
we've got the tactics right. We've not come anywhere near the British carp record, but
No.
I'll tell you what, that's a cracking fish.
So we've been through all the trials and tribulations and all the feelings that carp anglers get trying to catch a record fish, and
It's ended up with a lovely fish.
it's
like
ended
this.
up with a nice fish, yeah. And of course,
Great.
we could always come and do it all over again.
Today we've come down to try and catch probably what I think will be the toughest fish on our list, and that's a really big chub. Why? Well, big chub are never easy to catch, and you know that, Mick, but we've come here to the Dorset Stour, which is probably the most famous chub river in the country these days. Great bit of water, miles and miles of it, and some honking great chub, and I mean really, really big fish. However, this place is intensely fished, so believe me, I know these chub are going to be very difficult to catch.
They will be, but you know, what I'm going to do is take advantage of the fact that the chub is an omnivorous species, and that means it will eat anything. And I don't think many people will have brought down the baits that I'm going to be using today. I mean, let me show you the first one. Now, I'm not going to put that on in one piece, but I've brought a kipper down. Now, chub will quite readily take a piece of kipper. I've actually got a herring. Again, I'm just going to cut little slithers off it. I've caught chub on that before. I've got some king prawn, cut that into little chunks.
I actually think you've got a very good chance with these baits.
Yeah, well,
I do, because the fish here have seen everything.
Failure.
Well, I'm fishing a very different swim to you. I'm going to fish pellets, so I'm going to do a few things differently, because I'm going to try boilies as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to try PVA bags. We'll see which approach works, if any, because believe me, Mick, if we catch a big chub here, we'll have done well.
Well, we've got a nice day for it. It's nicely overcast.
It's perfect.
Yeah, I think we should get on with it, don't you?
Yeah, all right, mate. Good luck, old chap.
Yeah. Good luck, Matt. I'm going to start off with the tail of a king prawn and just see what the reaction is to that. I'll probably only give it 5 minutes, and then I'll work my way through all the other baits and just see which one they prefer.
So, chub, well, the record currently stands at £8 10 ounces, caught very, very recently, actually. And I'm here at the Natural History Museum in London with Nigel Hewlett from the Environment Agency and the British Record Fish Committee. Nigel, chub, there's never been a finer time to catch a really big chub. What's going on?
I think one of the main factors to do with increasing size of chub, Matt, is water quality. The massive improvements in the quality of our rivers over the last few years, and that's definitely contributing to the size of chub we're seeing.
What about global warming? We're getting milder winters. Is that a factor?
It's always difficult to look at climate change and see how it would actually affect any fish species. So it's always a possibility, but science is very limited on that particular area.
One thing I've got to throw at you is bait. I mean, modern baits. Most of these big chub are being caught from barbel stretches where people are putting in pellets, high-protein boilies. Is that a factor as well?
Definitely could be. You've certainly got a lot of stretches of river that are very popular, very heavily fished, and the populations of fish within them are fairly limited. And one thing to remember with these bigger chub we're seeing is they're not actually getting any longer, they're getting fatter, and that may well be to do with the food content of modern baits.
Well, that's interesting. You know, when it came to chasing a record chub, Mick and I talked about this. There's only one place to go as far as I'm concerned. Probably the most famous chub fishery in Britain, the Dorset Stour, and at Trout. Well, while Mick's messing about with his sea baits, I've put some bait into another swim. There's no fish in it at the moment, but basically I've laid a trap. And I think the best thing I can do to use the time productively is to try and stalk a chub out and get one under our belt early. Now, these fish aren't going to be easy to catch, but there is a group of chub right at the back of that mid-river rush bed over there. They're literally in about 10 inches of water, so they're going to be really spooky. But it's quite windy at the moment, and although that's a pain for casting, it will give us some cover from the chub. So we're going to sneak into a little gap over there and try and cast across to the rushes, and I reckon if we get one, it'll be within the first 2 minutes. Let's give it a go. A little bit slippery there, but I've made it, and this is the spot. Well, the fish have been moving from the deeper water up onto the shallow plateau behind those rushes there. They're quite difficult to spot actually because it is windy, and that wind's going to make it awkward to cast. I think, to be honest, I've only got one shot at this, so I'm going to put an extra bit of weight onto the link. And I'm going to try a natural bait. I haven't fed this swim at all. I'm really looking for an opportunist pickup. And then in here, I've got the greatest angling bait of them all. Now, Mick might have some success with his sea baits, and I'm sure he will, but when it comes down to it, a good old earthworm still got to be the king of the baits. Well, that's in there. Just hope a chub finds it now.
I've had a lot of frustration in this swim. The wind's driving me absolutely potty. I just can't seem to keep the rod and the line still, and I'm probably having bites that I'm missing. I have actually seen quite a few bites. I think I've had 6 or 7, and I actually hooked a fish on one of the bites. I just put on a little teeny chunk of herring. It had only just gone out, just coming round in the current, a little bump on the rod tip. The fish was on for about 2 seconds, and then it bit through the braided hook link. Obviously it could have been a pike, but it was such a teeny little bit of herring. I think it was a chub, and chub can bite through your line. They've got teeth right at the back of the throat that you can't actually see. So where are we now? Well, the only bait I haven't tried is the kipper, and I've been saving that for last, and the light's fading now, so I've got to try and pull something out of the bag pretty quick. There it is, a nice chunk of kipper. Really smells. They'll certainly know it's there anyway.
Just had a knock then. Sharp rap on the line as if a chub just tweaked it. Maybe just checking the bait out. Well, this swim is extremely weedy, and the wind is making this job so difficult.
I've got one. Oh, I'm hit. Oh, no. You will not believe what has taken my bit of kipper. It's the littest eel you're likely to see. Oh, and I just don't want to do this. But it just won't keep still.
These are the boilies. I tend to fish them and feed them as half baits. This is a little PVA bag, and I'm going to drop it back out on that gravel run. Oh, well, I'm going to wade across the river now and just drop a bait in that little shallow plateau. This won't spook the fish, just creep over. Well, I'm into a fish at last. My tactics have worked, but I'm not sure that this is a chub. I've got to really crank the fish in quickly. There's no room for finesse in this situation, I'm afraid. Oh, it is a chub. Oh, well, that's a result. Woohoo! I've got one. How about that? Not a big one, but it's a chub. And it's a Dorset Stour chub. And it's nice when your tactics work. This is quite a young fish, probably. It's actually a very small chub for the Dorset Stour. It'd be a nice one anywhere else. It's a nice fish, about 3 pounds probably. It's in nice condition. And considering it's only been a short session today, and it has really, because we arrived this afternoon, I'm quite pleased about that. Now, the chub record currently is £8 10 ounces as I speak, which is a huge fish, a lot bigger than this one, but believe me, there are probably fish of that size down here at Trout. And I'm going to put this one back into the stour because it's pretty lively, and hope that one day I'll come back and catch it when it's an 8-pounder. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Well, it's almost dark now, so it's pretty much time to pack up. So I think what we'll probably do tomorrow is go and have a look at another stretch, see if we can find some bigger fish. And if we do, well, obviously we'll fish for them. But it means that on our third day, we've got a choice between coming back here to Trout and maybe trying somewhere else. We'll see what happens. I'm getting some amazing line bites. It's just happened again. What a piece of drama. It's typical, isn't it? Just as Johnny, our cameraman, was starting to pack his gear away, I had an enormous bite. Fish just shot down the middle of the river. I've had to wade in to get it. It got stuck in the weed. I couldn't see what I was doing in the gloom. And I suddenly became aware that what I was playing was not a chub or a bream. And, well, this is one of the fish that Trout is famous for. This is a really nice barbel. It's a beauty. Whew, what an end to the day. Absolutely fantastic. And I'll tell you what, I didn't catch this one on a bit of old kipper, but it is a right old kipper itself, isn't it? Fantastic fish. I think I'll weigh this before I put it back. Let's have a look. That's exactly 11 pounds, which is a personal best for me from the stour, so I'm really pleased about that. That's brilliant. My previous biggest barbel was 10 pounds 14 ounces. So how about that? That's a right result. Fabulous. Now this morning we've moved stretches and we're on a bit controlled by the Christchurch Angling Club. It's another bit of the Dorset Stour. And I can tell you, Mick, there's some very big fish down here.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to trying my fishy baits down here.
Yeah, I think they'll work. I think you're onto something there, Supermarket Sweep. I really do.
Yeah, well, I was a bit disappointed yesterday because I did get an eel on the kipper.
Yeah.
And I had a fish bite me off on the herring, and I'm sure it was a chub. I felt it for a few seconds.
Did you feel it thumping around?
Oh, it just felt like a good chub.
Well, this is the weir pool. I think we need to be down here, mate. Just come and have a look in here, Mick. This is a great area to spot chub. Look, there's one. It's lovely to see him in the water like this, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a great spot, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Well, I'm in a new swim on a new stretch of the river, and it's beautiful down here. And today I'm going to carry on with my meat and fish bait approach. What I'm really trying to do is find a bait that nobody else is using that's going to give me a little bit of an edge. It may not work, but unless you put in the time and the effort, you're never going to know. So I've got a lovely pool here to fish. I'm told it does hold some very big chub, and I'm just going to show them my array of baits that I put through the other swim yesterday and just see what happens, really.
Well, this is a nice little chub spot. I've had a look in underneath a tree just below me, and I've seen a couple of chub circling round. It's the sort of spot where quite often you'll get a chub first cast. Now, I don't know whether that's going to happen now or not, but it's worth a go. It's a sort of opportunist swim, really. There's a little tap there, then. Don't know whether that was a chub or maybe even a perch or a small dace. That was a really delicate bite. I've got to keep the chub away from the tree, keep it out of the roots, because it'll try and get in there right in the cover. It's a really strong current here as well, so it's not a particularly big chub, but it's a good start. Bring this one into hand, covered in weed, and there it is. One cast, one fish. Lovely chubbly, whatever. Let's slip this one back. Oh, that water's cold today. It's a good start.
Well, so far I haven't had a bite, and I don't think it's because the fish and meat baits aren't working. It's just that I feel that I haven't put the bait in front of any fish, and I can see the bottom for most of the river, and fairly sure there's no fish where I've been casting. I think they're tucked away in some of these more obscure places under the bushes and the shaded areas. So I put my chest waders on, All I've got is my rod and my net, little tub of bait, and I'm going to have to go in after them.
You can see behind me that I've made a big gap through these reeds. This was all overgrown before I got here, and the reason I've made the swim is that just creeping along the bank there, I could see some chub underneath the branches of this tree.
Well, I don't know whether this is going to work or not, but if it doesn't, it won't be through lack of effort, I can tell you.
I've made the channel through so I can literally wade out and just drop my bait under the tree. I'm going to use a PVA bag again with a fairly heavy lead, put the bait into position and then just walk back, sit back and wait.
I haven't actually seen any fish yet, but I'm sure they're tucked away under these bushes.
It's amazing actually how close you can get to the fish without frightening them. We're starting to lose the light now. It's a low, clear river, the water temperature's dropping. Very, very difficult fishing here at the moment. And I think tomorrow, maybe we should head off to Trout because there's certainly more fish there and that makes them more competitive, so we might have a better chance of catching a big fish. We'll see. What I've got to do now is just sit it out here until it's dark and just hope that the fish start to feed and that I've got a bait there waiting for them. Well, here we are, we're back at Trout and made an early start. I'm actually fishing the swim that Mick was fishing the other day, but fishing it a completely different way. I'm fishing a swim feeder with hempen casters in the feeder and just casting and casting and casting. And I've just hooked into something, and yeah, it's a chub. That's a great start. It just proves that sometimes a change of tactics can pay dividends. And in actual fact, because I've been so pestered by small fish, the hook bait I've got is not real casters at all, they're rubber ones. Because the small fish have been annihilating the real bait. So I'm fishing proper bait, obviously, in the feeder, but I'm actually using plastic baits on the hook. And it's paid off already. That's a nice chub. Probably about 3.25 pounds, I'd say. Really chunky, thick set fish. There's my rubber caster there, can you see that? A good reward for getting up early, getting on the case. And I've got the rest of the day in front of me. I'm going to keep feeding this swim, and who knows, I might catch another fish or two. But it's a completely different approach. Small baits rather than big ones. Maybe I'm onto something. Well, this is a lovely spot to return a chub. And there she goes. Fabulous.
I baited another swim with some chopped herrings, but I am rather concerned this plan isn't really coming together. I think these fish are probably preoccupied with pellets. That's my biggest worry. So many pellets go into this river nowadays, they're probably just turning the noses up at a bit of herring. I mean, a lot of people, they actually say, why don't you lads ever show the bad sessions? Well, here it is, here's a bad session for me. I'm not doing particularly well. And this is why we don't show the bad sessions, because quite frankly, they can be a little bit boring. Matt's not doing too bad on the conventional tactics. I'm going to persevere with the herrings though. How can they resist that?
This is the swim that I caught the barbel in the other night, and I've been trickling pellets in here perhaps every half an hour, and it is now absolutely black with fish out there on the plateau. Most of them actually are bream. There are a few chub, and I think I've seen another barbel. It's quite amazing actually how many fish there are out there. It's certainly looking good for a bite, but of course the problem in a situation like this is I've got no control over what I hook. It could be a bream, it might be a chub, it might be a barbel. Well, I'm into a fish here almost straight away. Look at this thing. It's a right old slab. It's the first time I've caught a bream on the Dorset Stour. There you go. Warty old thing, a bit like Mick Brown, so I'm going to put this one straight back. Well, I've got another fish on now. Unfortunately, it's another bream. Absolutely black with them out there. It's a nice looking pale fish. Typical bronze bream. The bream out there heavily outnumber the chub, and yet in among them I know there's some good chub, and I just get a feeling that maybe I should persevere for a while. And I've seen a couple of fish out there that really look worth catching, to be honest. So I'll give it a bit more time here, I think. Or if that's a chub that's just come wandering in there, that's a big one. Well, I can't seem to stop catching these bream. This is quite a big one. It's a big dark old thing anyway. Yeah, it's become a war of attrition now. I figure if I empty the swim of bream, I might finally get through to the chub. Well, I've got a better fish on now, but it's got badly weeded in the middle of the river. It's just shot upstream. I'm gonna have to go in and try and free it. Well, the water's very deep here, and this is really awkward. I don't even know whether the fish is still there. It's gone right into this bed of weed. I'm gonna have to try and gently free it. It looks like a big chub, but it's deep in the weed. Trying to get it out. It's out. It's a big fish. Yes, I've got it. Well, well, well. Fish just ploughed into the weed and buried itself. But it's a nice chub. We've got about an hour to go, and me and Mick always do things at the last minute.
I knew you'd need the scales.
Did you hear the disturbance?
I did actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's over fine.
Oh, it's a lovely
yeah,
fish.
Look at that.
Talk about last gasp again.
Now, what do you want it to weigh?
I'd like it to weigh £5 plus, because I
Oh,
think that's a
well,
good chub.
it's miles above that. 5.13.
That ain't bad, is it?
That's not well done, lad.
Cheers, mate, thanks.
We've done it. We got what we came for.
We have, yeah. Let's have a look at it.
It's a lovely fish, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that's a fitting payoff to what has been an epic struggle, but we said these chub wouldn't be easy to catch. They weren't, but that's the sort of fish that people come to the Stour for. Big barbel, some bream, and then the payoff.
Well, in some of the programmes in this series, I've been very lucky to catch some really nice fish, but this isn't one of them. Matt, with the experience he's got on this river, has obviously caught some very good fish, and I'm very pleased for him. I had some idea of how I was going to fish the river, and it just hasn't worked for me. It's all part of the big learning curve. I've learnt a little bit more, and I'm not going to get too despondent about it. I'm just going to go off now and slit my wrists and hang myself. Well, would you believe it? Old Brownie wouldn't give up. One more cast led to another cast, and then another cast, and just as the light's finally gone, I've actually got one. Well, I've nearly got one. It's not quite in the net yet. I'm glad I put my chest waders on. Oh, dear. I'm in a terrible mess. Oh, yes, I've got it. Whew. Well, all's well that ends well, and I must say it's not a bad chub either. It was well worth waiting for. And I caught it on one of my fish baits as well. I might just have beaten my personal best, and as we've said before, when we talk about record breakers, it's not just national records, but it's river records and personal records. And if I've broken my personal best, I'll be more than pleased. Tell you what,
That's a beauty.
I'll pull one out of the bag again,
That's
mate.
a beautiful fish.
I think it might be a personal best.
Oh, without a doubt.
I always seem to get one in the end, don't I?
You do, mate, you do. Well done. Well, Mick, I can tell you, it is a personal best.
Yeah.
It's £6, 8 ounces.
Wow.
Fabulous fish.
I tell you what, I'm buying the beer, the curry, I'm buying the lot tonight.
Well, that is a proper Dorset Stour fish, mate.
I am. Well, what an end to the show. I've really tried hard with my fish baits, and it just shows that it's all about perseverance and never giving up, and this is certainly one I'm going to...
Did you catch it on, Mick?
On a piece of prawn in the end.
Fantastic.
It's one I'll remember for a long time to come. You can't knock that a personal best, can you?
Well, here we are, we're at Avington Trout Fishery, and we've come here to try and catch a big trout, because this series is all about big fish. Now, Avington actually is a very interesting place. It opened up in 1969 to 1970, and the advantage they've got here at Avington is that it's spring-fed. So you've got the River Itchen behind us, carriers off the Itchen, and these fabulous lakes that they dug out, and it grows really, really big trout.
And his claim to fame is that it produced the first double figure trout in England, and also the the first 20-pounder. So, you know, that's quite a record, quite a history, really.
It is indeed. And of course, Avington's also played a major role in shaping modern trout fishing because it bears very little relation to the way it once was in the days of the chalk streams. Here, people, instead of just casting blind, they're actually targeting specific individual fish that they can see in the water and trying to present a fly to them. And they're big fish, Mick.
Yeah, and I understand it's not as easy as it looks either.
Absolutely not, but we're going to give it a go. However, before we do that, this is a fascinating place because they do bring on their own fish here. And Robbie Winram, who runs Avington, is just over there, so maybe we could get him to give us a guided tour so we can all find out more about Avington.
Yeah, that could be very interesting.
I thought we were very like the two Ronalds.
Yeah, we were actually, weren't we? Which one was I? Beautiful bit of water, isn't it? We're surrounded by trout.
So, trout. Well, currently there is some controversy over the record and applications are invited for fish over 33 pounds in weight, which is absolutely enormous. I'm here at the Natural History Museum in London. I've got with me Nigel Hewlett. Now, Nigel not only works for the Environment Agency, he's also on the British Record Fish Committee as well. 33 pounds is an enormous trout. It's ridiculous. But you've also got this situation, Nigel, with different records. You've got one for resident fish and one for cultivated fish. Now, what's all that about?
Well, there's obviously been concern over the years about the fact people were starting to grow very, very large fish, and the technology for growing large fish was improving all the time, compared to other people who felt they'd caught something that was a bit more naturalised, had been in the reservoir for a bit longer and had grown on naturally. So that's why the two records are set up. The cultivated is for fish that go in large and are caught at that size. The resident fish are for those that have grown on in the water they're caught from.
And that must be difficult to decide sometimes when it comes to a record claim.
Yes, fortunately it's been clear-cut so far.
But you might envisage difficulties in the future. Well, probably no such difficulties with me and Mick. We have no aspirations to break the trout record, folks. Neither of us having really caught particularly big trout in the past. So when we went to Avington Trout Fishery, we'd have been quite happy to catch a double-figure trout. So where does it all start then, Robbie?
Well, it really starts by fish coming in at about an ounce, 1 ounce to 2 ounces. We rear them up until double figures, but what we're trying to do is grade out all the kind of front runners, so therefore that's why there's such a number of ponds on the fish farm.
So they start off this big.
That's right.
And they end up this big. And obviously people come here to fish for them, but there's quite a production line going there.
There is. I mean, it's not merely a case of just throwing the fish in the pond and, you know, lobbing some pellet in there. There are strict feed regimes that we stick to try and put on a decent amount of body weight, and in body weight we mean flesh tone and muscle, so they give good fighting fish to the anglers that come down here.
Yeah, they certainly look very, very healthy fish, Robbie. Do you take any precautions to keep them in good health like that?
All of them have been individually injection vaccinated against particular diseases.
So each fish is injected?
Each fish is injected by hand with a special gun and needle.
Sounds a bit tedious, that does.
That's amazing. And what about the ultimate size, Robbie? Because it went through the 30-pound barrier, which is an enormous trout.
Yeah.
It seems to have stopped there.
Yeah, I think as soon as you get to 30 pounds, I think the problems you have with transporting them, rearing them on, cardiovascular failure are all present. And I think those people who push them beyond 30 are doing very, very well indeed.
What about the style of fishing that's evolved here? Because it's very much about stalking now, isn't it?
Because of the clear water, people can see the fish, so it almost goes back to the old days of the induced take, dropping the fly down to the depth of fish and watching the fish actually flare its gill covers, take the fly and then set the hook.
Yeah, but is it as easy as it looks? I mean, there's lots of trout. Are they willing to take the flies?
Often getting your better quality specimen, big fish are always taken stalking. However, they will come to a fly that's just fished pulling back towards you. I mean, the difficulty is having the water craftsmanship to drop the fly down. And as I said, the flare of the gill cover, often people wait for the white of the mouth and that's when it's actually spitting the fly out.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what we do need to do, and it is fascinating seeing this whole setup. Of course, we do need to catch a trout, and I thought maybe it'd be useful before we start fishing if we can just go and get a couple of flies out your shop.
No problem at all.
Well, I can't wait to catch them.
So you're going to lead the way, Sir Michael?
I will, young Matthew.
From what I can see, everybody here is fishing blind anyway, Mick.
Yeah. Well, they're happy with what they catch, aren't they?
Yeah. They're not actually trying to spot individual fish, they just chuck it out.
It is like the old proverbial fairground, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a fish just moved out there. It's very difficult with this ripple on to be able to see them.
Right, so you're on the fluorocarbon, eh? Almost invisible in the water.
Well, you've got the invisibility and it's stiff, so you get a good turnover
Yeah,
as well, especially
yeah.
with some of these heavy flies.
Yeah. What do you recommend?
Well, I don't know, really.
No, well...
It's the blind leading the blind,
Yeah,
but I think the idea is you want a fly preferably that the trout can see, and you want something that will get down quickly to their level.
Yeah,
Because the water's
yeah.
deeper than it looks.
Yeah.
And if a fish is 6-7 feet down, you want something that will go straight down
Yeah.
there. So certainly I think for sort of stalking them, some of these sparsely dressed type, buzzer type patterns are very, very good.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to induce a take, sometimes these marabou-tailed things...
Yeah. Do you think you've got to get it down to the level they're on, or will they rise to the fly?
I think they will rise to it, but I think it helps if it gets down to their level
Yeah,
and they see it.
yeah.
So, I mean, you're using virtually all leaded patterns.
So that's the sort of thing you think they'll be taking? now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a good
I mean,
fly.
to the layman, that just looks like a bear
Well, you can
hook.
almost dead stick that because it is a buzzer.
Yeah.
You know, in this lake, you've got lots of insect life that will
Yeah.
be hatching out from the bottom, and the
Yeah.
buzzer is the larvae of things like mosquitoes.
Yeah. To a non-angler, it just looks like a bear hook, doesn't it? There's hardly any dressing on at all, just a bit of weight and a little bit of orange
But
in there.
there's weight there, you see.
Yeah, yeah. I'll try that one.
Well, give it a go.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got plenty of flies.
The thing
We can
is,
try
I
different ones.
can put it in front of a few fish, and if they refuse it, I'll have another look in your box.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I'll probably just close it like that and say, I'm sorry, stick to the fly you've got.
What are you choosing anyway? Bob?
It's a leaded bug with
Yeah.
a yellow marabou
Now,
tail.
that looks like a proper fly. That looks like a bit of weed on a hook, really. But the thing is, with our lack of experience, we might need to do a bit of fishing just to see what they're taking.
Maybe.
You know, maybe by fishing blind, if we have to.
But at least with this, you'll
Well-
see the reaction of the fish to the fly.
Yeah, yeah.
And you'll know whether they're taking
Yeah,
him or not, because
yeah.
you'll see it.
Come on, let's stop talking about it.
Right.
Let's do it.
Let's go and have a go.
Right, I'm just testing my fly now amongst a small group of fish. We are after a big one, but I just want to see what reaction I get from this fly. No, it's totally ignored it.
I've got a fish on now. I've just cast a fish in front of me just to test my fly, really, and it's just mullered it straight away, so that's good news. Oh, it's amazing seeing them in this clear water, actually. You can see every movement with the fish. You can watch it follow. You can watch it open its mouth and flare its gills as it takes the fly. It's quite incredible, actually. Well, I wasn't meant to catch that, Mick. I just wanted to test my fly, and I've got myself into one. I think it's probably an average fish for here.
Did it chase it very far?
Yeah, it just came straight for it. It saw the fly. I dropped it quite close to it.
Yeah.
And it just walloped it. Well, that's a good start, Mick, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. So that was on yellow, was it?
Yeah.
Right, I'll be scrounging a yellow fly off you, mate. Oh, got it. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a good weight, that is.
It's a nice fish, isn't it?
Yeah. Let's take it on this bit of soft grass.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. And there's the little yellow fly you took.
Yep. Heavily leaded fly.
Look at that.
Got a marabou tail, see?
Yeah.
Gives it a bit of movement.
Yeah.
But he was wired for that fly, Mick. I mean, he wanted it. That's a nice looking rainbow trout, actually. It's in really good condition. You can tell, look at the tail. When they chase each other in their stew ponds, they're
Yeah.
basically nipping at each other's tails and they
Yeah.
get rubbed off.
Yeah.
So what you're looking for, Mick, is a really nice, solid, fully finned fish like that.
Oh, look at that.
Beautiful.
It's really plump, isn't it?
Yep, super fish.
Oh, here he comes. Oh, no, there's a small one with it. No, they both turned away.
Oh, well, this one's flying off. This is a nice fish, actually. I just saw it in the margins. It's got to be £5, that, as you know.
Yeah. The belly on it.
Yeah, really juicy, fat fish. Well, the fly's well chewed now, Mick, but that's the one it took. It's a little black fritzy type thing.
It's more the way it's moving. If it looks natural, they'll go for it.
Probably, yeah. Got a few fish out at range now. They're not really close enough in for me to get a good look at them. Some of the takes are just so gentle.
Well, I just can't see how we're going to catch a big fish at the moment. We are fishing totally blind. There's a couple of big fish in this swim in amongst quite a large number of fish really, but we've not really been in a place where we can cast for them very easily. I don't think it's down to the fly or the retrieve so much as actually being able to spot the fish and cast to them and see what's happening.
Here he comes. Here he comes. And he's still on it. Here he comes. Got him. Ah, yeah. Son of a gun.
If it would just go calm, we'd have a chance of casting and picking out the bigger fish. But at the moment, I'm just struggling to get one at all with this wind.
When that ripple comes up, I just can't see anything.
This is quite challenging fishing. I thought it was going to be quite easy.
Oh, I had a bump then. I spooked him then. You lined him.
If I've got any hair left, I'd pull it out.
Can't really see the individual fish, just the movements now. Gotten it. Yeah. Well, we're just blind casting now and basically just fishing out into this ripple and waiting to feel the pull because it's very difficult to see the fish with the wind that's on the water and all the shade that's here now. But I've got myself into another lively fish here. The trouble with this technique is, of course, you can't select out the bigger ones.
At least you've caught one. I can't get one at all up there.
It's been a difficult afternoon, actually. It started quite promisingly, but the conditions have deteriorated to the point where really we're just fishing blind now and hoping that we get a big fish. I think it's pretty well ready now, mate. Well done.
Another nice fat one.
Yeah, they're all the same, aren't they, actually? They're all in good condition.
Yeah.
This lovely evening light as well now, Mick.
Yeah.
Such a shame that the ripple's on there. It's got absolutely fantastic colours in this evening light, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Real proper rainbow trout, that is.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I had a mid-double figure fish follow a fly twice.
Did you?
But it wouldn't take it. It
No.
just turned off at the last minute. Can't see a fat lot here, Michael.
Oh, there's one, look. That's a good one. Oh, the light's gone at this end.
The light's gone completely, hasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, that looks a good fish out there, see?
The wind's killed it, mate.
Well, this is a bit like carp fishing. Only more frustrating and more expensive.
Well, today we've got similar conditions to those that we had yesterday, which is going to make spotting fish really awkward. It's quite busy at the fishery today as well. So Mick and I have had a chat about this, and what we think we should do is stick to our guns, stand in one position until we get a little bit more space and just try and spot some bigger fish. And if we see a bigger fish, we'll cast to it. And I think that way we've got a better chance of contacting one of the giants, because if we just fish blind, it really is pot luck, and we'll probably end up with fish around 4 to 5 pounds. Nice fish, but there are some real lunkers swimming around in this lake, and I think we've got to wait to see them and then try and put the flies to specific fish. So it should be quite challenging, but it'll be fun, I think.
One thing I have learned about any subject that you're not familiar with is to get a bit of help with your technique. And casting, for example, I got some help with my casting technique last time I went out, and my casting improved overnight. I've just had a little bit of advice from Robbie down at the lodge, actually, about my retrieve technique. And he said these buzzers I'm retrieving, the trout will go for them, but they seem to want them presented in a certain way, and I'm retrieving them far too quickly, not how they'd expect to see them in nature. So I've slowed the retrieve right down. And the other thing I've done, I thought about this myself, maybe my lead is too thick, 8-pound breaking strain, it's quite a thick leader, and this water's gin clear. So I've stepped it down. I think the fish are less likely to see it in these clear conditions. So I'm just going to put the theory into practice and see if I can get one of these big trout that Avington's famous for. And I can actually see quite a nice one just out there at the moment. Right on his nose.
He's got it. Oh, well, that wasn't a big fish, but it's a good early confidence boost. Just got a little bloodworm pattern on here. Oh, he's off. Ah, damn. That's a shame, but it wasn't a big fish, so I'm not too worried about it. I'll show you the fly, actually. This is a bloodworm imitation. You can see it's got red beads here, and then at the back, a sort of wavy red marabou tail, which gives it movement. Now this fly basically imitates the bloodworms, which glow a bright fluorescent red. And they're one of the natural food items that the fish in here will switch on to after a few days of being in the lake. Remember, they've been pellet fed for 2 or 3 years of their lives. They get put into here, and then they've got to think differently. They've got to find their food. And it takes them a little while to adjust to natural feeding, but the longer they're in the lake, the more likely they are to switch over to the naturals. And I think, personally, I've got a better chance of catching a big fish on a more natural fly than perhaps one of the gaudier, flashier flies. That's my theory, and it's nice to get an early bite. Oh, there's a fish there now.
Well, how about that? A little bit of help with my technique. Yeah, it's got it. Well, it's not a monster. And there's the little buzzer it took. Are you into one, Matt?
I've got one as well, yeah.
Well, Matt's got one as well. How about that? Well, that's an early success.
Oh, it's come off.
That's what this programme's all about.
I've got a better fish on this time. I must say, this fly seems to be doing the business. It's a really gentle take. Oh, I'm off again. Oh, bottom.
There we go.
Well, we'll try again, shall we? Well, at least I got one right. That one didn't come off. Not a big fish, but it's nice to hook a few while you're waiting for a big one to come along. Well, here's the fly here. This is called an okie dokie buzzer, and it has been catching a lot of fish this season up and down the country. Now, that's a lovely Avington fish. Just look at it.
I'm starting to get the hang of this now.
I've just changed down to a really small buzzer.
Oh, it's going wild. This is incredible fishing.
Oh, he's off.
I wish I'd have done this years ago. It's great fun.
Not my day today, is it? I think one of the reasons that the fish are coming off, I've noticed I'm hooking them right on the point of the nose. The takes are so gentle. There's the fly. You can see what I mean, look.
I'm just getting so many bites since I've worked out how to do it. Well, that's lucky the buzzers fell out, Matt.
Very big fish out in front of me now. I've just changed over to an orange fly there because the fish seemed to have lost interest in the colour I was using. And I saw that fish following for ages with his mouth just... He's got a white point on the end of his nose, and I could just see that. And then I saw him flare his gills. I tightened, and there he was. It's a nice fish. Well done, Sir Michael.
Well done, Matt. I heard you say you changed to an orange fly.
I did, yeah.
Because I've been having mine on a fly with an orange head.
Yeah.
I lost it, and since then I haven't had another fish. Having said that, I can't see many fish at all in the swim, but you can't always see.
They've gone down.
Yeah.
But having said that, the big fish haven't been out, and
no,
I just haven't seen one. If we saw one, we'd have a chance.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably there hiding in the weeds somewhere.
Oh, they'll be about.
There's a lot of hiding places down there,
The
isn't there?
light's getting better now, though, so...
Yeah, and it's not so breezy as it was earlier, so I think we've got a better chance. You haven't got to fly with an orange nose in your box, have you?
Probably, yeah.
Let me scrounge one off you. Good job, you've got a spare, isn't it?
Well, it's amazing sport now. I've just changed over to a white buzzer this time. Oh, and Sir Michael's in as well.
One for everyone.
Fabulous sport.
We'll have to work in shifts on that landing net.
Well, I've got mine. There you are, sir.
I don't know whether it's actually the collar that's important, but this one's got a lot less weight on it, so it's sinking in a more delicate way, and I'm able to retrieve it very, very slowly. And it's worked, but we're still after that big one. I mean, this one's going like fury. Oh, bloody hell, just burnt my finger on the line.
Oh, what a rigmarole.
What a rigmarole.
Nice fish, though.
I don't know whether you can see this, but this is a really hard fighting fish because hanging from its mouth, actually, is another angler's line. It's obviously broke somebody off recently. So if the viewer who lost that fly recently is watching, this is what you lost, mate. I'm so sorry to tell you. But I've caught it in your honour. How about that?
Woo-ha!
They're great fighting fish, aren't they? Oh.
Well, I'm in again on the buzzer here.
On the shank.
It's not a bad fish, Mick. Now, that's a lovely Avington fish. Just look at it.
Better one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not a bad fish, this. Look at it go.
Yeah, I had one like that.
It's mad, isn't it?
I burnt my hand on the line.
Hey, you know that fish you caught earlier on?
Yeah.
One of the lads took it up the lodge for you. It weighed 9 pounds, you know.
Yeah, I thought it would be getting on for that.
Yeah, I reckon the average size we've been catching is over 6.
Yeah.
We probably underestimated them, mate.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this thing
Yeah.
go. Look at this. It's like a bonefish. Yee-haw! Here she comes.
I'm going to keep going. I got it.
Thank you,
Yes.
Sir Michael. Thank you.
It's not a
No,
bad one.
It's a fat one, isn't it? That's a chunky old fish, that is, Mick, you know.
It is. I bet you that's getting on for £8.
Heavy, quite heavy.
Yeah, yeah. So a closer look at the dorsal fin. Look at that with the sunshine coming through.
Beautiful.
And on the tail, look at the spots on there.
Yeah. That's a nice fish, that is, Mick. Take it easy there.
I've just changed my fly to a big black thing. I thought a change of fly might just do.
Yeah, that's a good fish, that is, mate. Oh, yeah, that's a good one, mate.
That's what it's all about at Avington, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they look quite tame in those stew ponds, don't they, mate?
Yeah, just take it easy, Mick. That's a big fish, that is.
They're certainly not tame when you've got them on the
No,
end.
that's a good one, mate. That's the fish we're after.
I saw him lurking in one of those deep holes between the weed beds.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the bigger ones maybe hide down in these holes during the daytime.
And wait for the light value
Yeah.
to dip.
But I cast to him and he took it. Yes. Yes.
Where is it still going in the net? Got someone else's fly in its mouth as well. Look.
Yeah, well, that's what I caught him on, Matt. I don't know what it's called. It's one of Robbie's recommendations, and I put it in my box when he said it's worth it.
Well, Sir Michael, you've done it again. And
I
that's
am.
a great fish. That's certainly a double figure trout, Mick. I reckon that's 11 or 12 pounds, mate.
Yeah, I'm having a fabulous run just lately, and we set out to stalk a fish, and I saw this fish swim by, and I thought, that's a big one. Cast to it, and it turned and took it, and that's what we set out to do.
It all started here at Avington. It's still going on today. It's famous for its big fish. You've definitely caught what qualifies for me as a big one. We've had a rake of fish, actually. We've had loads today, and you've capped it off with what Avington is famous for. That is a double figure trout. Absolutely superb. Good bit of fishing. Well done, mate.
Thanks, mate. It's a good team effort there.